Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're heading into some really chilling territory, actually. We're exploring a legend from Mukteshwar, Bhooti Amma, the ghost mother. It's a story tied up with missing children, dark rituals, just deeply unsettling stuff.
It really is. And we're going to trace it from its origins, look at historical accounts, even modern ones, and touch on some quite disturbing forensic findings.
Yeah, the goal here is to sort of unpack the layers, understand why this story is so persistent, so terrifying, really.
It goes beyond just a simple ghost story. There seem to be threads in historical records, and it keeps popping up. It's, well, fascinating how fear shapes a community like this.
So let's start at the beginning, the figure at the heart of it all. I'm Rita Divi.
Right. The story describes her as a widow, barren, and consumed by this overwhelming desire for a child.
A desire that apparently pushed her towards some very dark practices.
Extremely dark. We're talking tantric rituals. The legend specifically mentions the sacrifice of 7 infants under a blood moon, no less. It's incredibly grim.
And the punishment from the goddess Kali. It wasn't just death, was it? It was a transformation.
A truly horrific one. Her womb supposedly became a gaping mouth. Her hands turned into claws. Even her tears became this poisoned milk, a complete perversion of motherhood.
The villagers eventually caught her, right? Burned her alive, according to the tale.
Yes, but as she burned, her final scream was this vow, this curse, really. She promised to take children if her own unnatural hunger wasn't fed.
That origin story.
Yeah.
Wow. It sets such a potent, disturbing stage for everything else.
Absolutely. It taps into primal fears. And then, intriguingly, we see potential echoes of this much later in actual historical records.
You mean the British colonial records from 1893?
Exactly. They document 13 children vanishing in Mukteshwar. 13.
And it wasn't just that they went missing. There were these strange clues left behind.
Really strange clues. Tiny handprints, for instance, but always an odd number 7 or 13 or 21 found around the homes.
And the milk. Puddles of sweetened milk that reportedly just didn't dry up, even in the sun.
Which defies any normal explanation, you know?
Then there's that nursery rhyme.
Right.
Creepy. Ajab beta, dud pio amaka pyar chako.
Come, child, drink milk, taste mother's love. Sung sweetly, it's innocent in this context. Utterly sinister.
The British officials, though, they weren't buying into the supernatural angle.
No, they chalked it up to native superstition, essentially. Standard colonial response, perhaps.
But what about that one account? The soldier's son?
Ah, yes. That one is harder to dismiss. He apparently described a nice auntie with black teeth offering him sweets barfi made from bone meal, supposedly right before he disappeared.
Black teeth. Bone meal barfi. That connects directly back to the grotesque imagery of Bhooti Amma.
It does. It blurs that line between folklore and something potentially real, or at least perceived as real. And these unsettling connections, they don't stop in the past.
Right, let's jump forward. 2005. A 5-year-old boy, Rohit.
Before he vanished, he'd been talking about Daddy, who lives in the oak tree.
Which sounds like typical kid stuff, until the search party found that trail.
A trail of evaporated milk drops. Just like the old stories, leading straight to a hollow oak tree.
And inside, God, it's awful. His shoes filled with clotted cream and baby teeth.
Baby teeth and fresh human bite marks on the bark of the tree itself. It's just visceral.
Then fast forward again, 2018. This time we have video, a nanny cam.
Technology adds a whole new, terrifying dimension. The footage captured some specific moments.
Yeah, like a figure hunched over, scratching at the window just before 1 a.m.
Then the latch opening, seemingly by itself, a few minutes later.
And then a skeletal hand, placing a silver bowl of milk on the floor.
Chilling, but the final bit is maybe the worst. The camera gets knocked over.
And just before it cuts out, it captures this image of a mouth unhinging like a snake's. Then static.
The child, thankfully, survived, but apparently refused to eat anything white afterwards. The trauma is undeniable.
These modern cases, they just reinforce the pattern, don't they? The milk, the disturbing figures.
It shows the persistence of the legend and the fear, which naturally leads to people developing ways to protect themselves.
Which brings us to Baba Haldar, the tantric who supposedly confronted Bhooti Amma back in '72.
He's credited with outlining specific protective measures based on his understanding of the entity.
Rules to follow, like never leave milk outside after sunset.
Because she's drawn to it, she can sniff it out. That's the belief.
And painting door frames with mustard oil.
Supposedly burns her fingers if she tries to get in.
And the knife under the pillow, stained with menstrual blood.
That's said to be her one taboo, something that repels her, very specific, very ritualistic.
Baba Haldar also had that description of her scent.
Uh-huh. She comes smelling of jasmine and rancid ghee. The sweeter the scent, the closer she is.
Jasmine and rancid ghee. That combination is just
Yeah.
deeply unsettling.
Yeah.
Suggests a kind of deception.
Absolutely. Something beautiful hiding something rotten. And, the forensic analysis of those milk puddles, it actually supports the idea that something very strange is going on.
Right. This isn't just folklore anymore. The science is weird.
Very weird. The milk had high lactic acid, yes, like breast milk, but also stomach bile.
Bile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And traces of diazepam.
Which could explain why children might go along willingly, seem calm, sedated.
But the protein chains.
That's the kicker. Unknown protein chains, matching no known mammal. That pushes it way beyond conventional explanation.
And then there was the drone survey in 2022, finding that cave system.
Beneath the temples in Mukteshwar, and what they found inside, it just adds layers to the horror.
Piles of milk teeth arranged in patterns, like mandalas.
Uh-huh. And these petrified figures looking like children made of beeswax and human hair.
And an altar, stained with blood.
Decades-old blood, according to analysis, but still wet to the touch. It suggests ongoing ritualistic activity tied directly to this legend.
Okay, so given all this, the history, the modern encounters, the forensics, it's no wonder people have these specific do's and don'ts.
Absolutely. These aren't just old wives' tales to them. They're practical survival instructions.
So what are the key ones, the do's?
Well, feed children spicy food before bed. The idea is it masks the scent of milk that might attract her.
Okay, makes a certain kind of sense within the legend.
Hang thorny rose stems over windows. A physical barrier, perhaps symbolic too.
And let them sleep with a black dog.
Yeah, black dogs are supposedly her only fear, a kind of protective familiar.
And the don'ts? What should people absolutely
I
avoid?
should never, ever answer if you hear a baby crying outside at night. It's considered a lure.
Right. Don't investigate.
Don't accept sweets from elderly strangers. Remember the auntie with black teeth.
A chilling callback.
And don't go near those milk puddles if you see them. They're seen as bait, specifically for parents looking for their lost children.
These rules, they paint a picture of a community living under a very real, perceived threat.
For generations. And perhaps the most disturbing thing now is the idea that, well, that she might be evolving, adapting.
What suggests that?
Well, look at 2023. Reports of children sleepwalking, heading towards a kind entity that only showed up on baby monitors, using technology almost.
That's creepy. A modern twist.
Then in 2024, temple cows giving black milk for 13 days straight, a deeply ominous sign in that cultural context.
13 days. The number again.
And just last month, reports that every child under 5 in the area dreamt the same nursery rhyme on the same night. Agacheta beta du pio.
A collective nightmare. That suggests something growing, becoming stronger.
It certainly suggests the phenomenon isn't fading away, which leads us to a final, pretty chilling thought for you, the listener.
Yeah?
If your child suddenly starts craving milk late at night, out of the blue, maybe, just maybe, check their gums.
Why check their gums?
Because the legend says Bhooti Amma collects the teeth first, before she takes the rest.
A final, horrifying warning. It makes you wonder how much truth can hide within these old, terrifying stories.
Indeed. Some legends linger for a reason. Thank you for joining us on this particularly unsettling deep dive.